All right. I wanna I wanna hurry up and hop into this one. 'Cause this is a lengthy comment from Chris Rob. A guy named Chris Rob. We give him a like and a heart. And we usually watch the video, but this was a longer video that I responded to. But let's kind of get into a little bit of it. Let's see. All right. This is me responding to me
Important.
responding to me. So that's the only thing in the clip. If you want the full video, Chris Rob, I think he's up first. Other things. So that is true. Slavery is still practiced. Oh, okay, I remember now. They say nothing about today. So I'm only saying that because I'm kind of highlighting. You should be grateful. Sometimes I think there's a better way to look at it. People never own. Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, Chris Rob. So let's see what you got to say, Chris Rob. Let's read what Chris Rob got to say, because I want to take some time out, right? This is a long comment, and that means I take this serious. What do I mean by that? This is a human being. I don't look at it like, oh, he's just talking. No, he's not just talking. This is a human that just went and typed this. So this is coming from their experience, and I want to read and take time to, be appreciative of them expressing themselves here. All right. I came here expecting you just to bash me for my opinion, and you did not. I think you were pretty respectful in this video and give you props for that. Well, you know what? Thank you, Chris Rob. I appreciate that. I think that's a good thing. Before we get into the rest of it, I honestly, that's the plan, right? That's the goal. I'm not here to bash you. I'm trying to create community, right? So even if you disagree or agree, that's not the point here. The point is, right, for you to be able to do what you're doing, express yourself, and possibly help others if the message is able to help. And that's the whole point. It's not, we're not illiterate here, right? But no problem. Okay, so he says, my own lived experience. I grew up in extreme poverty. Okay. Before I start, I'm trying to remember what was the point that is here. No longer slaves, because we was talking about slaves. Slavery. Make sure there were no longer slaves in this country. Yeah, we was talking about slaves, but no problem. Family of 5 in a school bus with no electricity or running water, 22 miles from the nearest town. Okay, that is poverty. I'll give you that. Let me give you that. That's poverty. I'll give you that. Stepdad did not work. Mom was a waitress. Okay. Now I'm not trying to be funny here, but first of all, well then maybe that's why your stepdad don't work. I'm not being funny. I'm truly curious. And then second, well, where's the actual dad? And hopefully he didn't you know what I'm saying? Like, is he alive? Because where's he at? Because now, if he alive, then it seems like mom and dad just had the family structure messed up, which is why you ended up in the situation you did. But it seems from the outside looking in, if they were able to stay together, then you wouldn't have had this experience. But no problem. Older sister, I'm still reading. They divorced when I was 12. All right, so that was pretty traumatic. Older sister went to grandma's. She was in high school. Dang. So that was still dramatic too, because you lost your sister though. Even though she went to grandma's, she left the house. That still matters. I lived under a bridge by a creek for a year. Why? Why you didn't stay with your mom disappeared. Younger brother went with stepdad. Mom disappeared. Dang. So she left you. Dang. I'm not laughing. I'm just saying, what's the chances of all that, right? Everybody got split up, and you got split to the one that left you, and nobody else got left. That's crazy. I lived under a bridge by a creek for a year, and then in an old wooden carport behind a restaurant that I was washing dishes at. Okay. So you end up getting a job at least. That's what's up. I lived there for 2 years, then moved in with one of my coworkers. Is this a man or a woman? I'm assuming it's a man. No one ever knew I lived in the carport or under the bridge. Okay? How old were you when you lived there? Small town Texas, 1980s. So you an older person. Okay, that makes sense why you're a little bit more reasonable here. Yeah, real quick, I was raised by my grandma. Okay, 1945. She was born in 1945. I say all that to say what? I'm not here to disrespect. You know what I'm saying? Yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. It's no problem. But 1980s, oh my God. You're an old man? What is that, 20s? What are you, 60? I'm sorry. 50? You 50? Maybe you 50. Okay. There was a public restroom in the center of town that I used to bathe in the sink. It was about 2 blocks from the restaurant. I managed to stay in school until my sophomore year when I was kicked out for attendance, not for grades. I'm not being funny. Why weren't you able to go? Like, was it because the school was too far? Was the travel too far? What was the reasoning for you not being able to make it? I didn't even get a GED until I was 30. Golly, dude. Why? Why? Like, I'm not being funny. What was stopping you all them years? Like, once you got older, like 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, what was happening? I worked construction during the day since then and restaurants at night and on the weekends. I now own a small construction company that I've had for about 11 years. I just purchased a bar and restaurant. Well, okay, look, right, bro, look. Okay, now that's getting good. You gotta explain all this. Hey, hold on, bro. Don't be coming to the page talking and not explaining. You said I now own a small construction company. How? How did you do this? How do you own it? Let people know this so they can learn. And then you said that you have for about 11 years. So that means consistency. That means you've been able to do this consistent. So that means that you have a lot of knowledge, 11 years worth of knowledge that you can help people learn. And then you said, I just purchased a bar and restaurant. Okay, how? Like, how much money did this cost you? Why did you do it? Did you get that investment from the instruction company? You know, how did that work out? You know, yeah. How did you get all that? Yeah. All that I'm trying to point out, why I keep going? Okay, we'll go like this. There it is. All that I'm trying to point out is that I grew up with fewer resources and opportunities than 99.9% of the population in the United States, so I have very little pity for people who whine about not being handed stuff. Okay, hold on. Okay. Because that's pretty vague though. What do I mean by that? When you say, because no, look, let's get real. If you talk about black people, who you talking about? Hey, look, I'm not offended by anything. I'm just here to have a conversation. You said, so I have very little pity for people who whine about not being handed stuff. What does that mean? Because black people ain't whining. We went through a different, like, you didn't go through slavery. So I don't think your brain thinks how our brain is thinking, right? So like, how can I explain it, right? Because like, if when you go through life, you don't have to worry about the fact that you're black and that there's a stigma on you. Yes, you were in poverty, but on your way out of poverty, fighting out of poverty, you're not going to face racism from your peers as well. When you go apply for a job, there isn't going to be any type of racism. Or when you're driving in your cars, 9 times out of 10, the cop isn't looking to pull you over or thinking you're the threat or you're the problem. That's the reality I'm trying to kind of paint here. I do hear what you're saying though, but our experiences aren't the same. And I think if we say that to y'all, the first thing that I've learned is that they try to minimize what we say and then try to argue what about this over here? What about other people's experiences? What about they don't hear what I just said. If I say they're racist to us in 2025, in my mind, I'm thinking logically, white people would say, okay, well, what's your experience? So I can understand it and even comprehend it to a deeper level. No, they just straight up say, wait, whoa, they start deflecting. Wow, well, who cares? Well, the Asian, they racism is everywhere. Y'all are racist to us. They try to flip it. And they don't have understanding or empathy, right? Empathy to understand other people's feelings. But no problem. And then let's get this last piece. In my life experience, let's get that out. Why I do that? Here, let's start here. In my life experience, the happiest people don't always have the best of everything. That is true. I've learned that as well. But they do make the best of everything they have. Okay, I understand. Be humble and be grateful, because in the grand scheme of things, we are just all on a tiny rock hurling through space at 20,000 miles per hour. Well, yeah. And somehow the billion things that could go wrong that would in our existence don't happened, and we get to live another day, love and respect. Now, look, let me look at this two ways. Granted, what you just said is 1,000% valid, right? That is a great, mature way to also look at it. Two things can be true at once. I'm not saying what you said is invalid. No, that's valid. That is true. In the grand scheme, now, you know, some people will argue, oh, are we really going through space? But whatever you believe, right? We're all trying to live here. That is true. But through trying to live, that does not mean that we cannot speak about history. Okay? I'm just being honest. We were put in slavery and we didn't get reparations. That's facts. That's just the facts, right? It's not about feelings. It's not about how we feel. It's the truth. We ain't arguing that white people don't go through poverty. No, we don't. Our worry isn't with white people in poverty. Let me read this to you again. 2/3 by 1860, enslaved people produced over 2 billion pounds of cotton annually, accounting for 2/3 of the world's cotton supply. Now, when you read that, you don't read it and say, "Well, my people was enslaved." That don't even register in your mind. That doesn't even register. So you're happy with the makeup of how things are, meaning you're like, look, I'm grateful to get a job and get construction. We looking at it saying there shouldn't be no construction, there shouldn't be no bridges, there shouldn't be nothing because they shouldn't even have been here. Like, you see what I'm saying? You're like, oh yeah, we're happy we're here and just make the best of it. We're saying, yeah, we're happy we're here, but we are trying to make the best of it because we realize, which again, what happened? Our people produce over 2 billion pounds of cotton annually. Now, there's white people that got their pockets fatty, okay? And they get to keep power, okay? And that's the difference. So even though you as an individual has your own individual struggles, the grand scheme here on the actual planet is that the white man is in the power and he got it from, we know. What did it say? Let's read it again. By 1860, enslaved people produced over 2 billion pounds of cotton annually. That means every year we give in 2 billion pounds of cotton. Do you understand? What? Then it said this production, hold on, account for 2/3 of the world's cotton supply. 2/3. The world, not America, the world. And then y'all don't probably understand why our people, like my grandmother, she grew up in Alabama where they was picking cotton still. Now, they weren't enslaved, but I mean, pretty much, they still was kind of slaves, but you know, it was technically their job now. No, they're still picking cotton. It's not that far removed. It's far removed from y'all's history, because maybe you don't have a grandma that's telling you about, I don't know what your grandma did, but what I am saying is, this production was primarily driven by the cotton industry in the southern United States, where my grandma was in Alabama, which relied heavily on the labor of enslaved individuals to cultivate and process the cotton crop. And if you ain't gonna pay them, then you pay the descendants. Like I just told another dude, the U.S. paid reparations to Japanese Americans for internment in 1942. And they paid it in 1988, which was 46 years later. Germany still pays Holocaust reparations. The U.S. pays slaveholders reparations after emancipation, but never paid the enslaved. So I know on one end, I hear what you're saying, right? Oh, let's just be cool and but yeah, that's because your history, nothing in you read about the enslaved people producing over 2 billion pounds of cotton annually, and nothing in you say, dang, that's my people. Exactly. Not trying to be funny. Exactly. You gotta be able to have a lot of empathy to see what we're saying instead of seeing what you're saying. But again, hold on. Thank you for this comment, right? This was a great comment. You know, you still gave a lot of insight, which is, you know, we all need to get along. And I want to end it with, yeah, you're right in a way. Yeah, we all just need to. Oh yeah. Well, that means that if we're getting along, and we should be able to talk about history correctly, and nobody's getting offended. And if we say we were dead wrong, we never got reparations. See, from that point, then we should be able to move forward. Okay, so let me quickly, because this is going on 15 minutes. So like my background is science, right? Biology. So biological science. So what I'm saying to you is, right, you have to peer review in front of your peers. It is not just your feelings. So what I'm saying is, once you come to a point where you're like, and you make a valid point in front of the, we did not get reparations for enslavement, and we can point to where others did. You don't go, oh well. You don't go, the peers don't go, oh okay. The peers don't go, okay, whatever, he's just talking. No, they would have to validate. Is that valid? You have to actually directly see, is he valid? And if he is, then we can't tell him he can't publish this or he can't present this. Do you see what I'm saying? I get it. This is not a scientific environment. So once I present those things, those facts, it can just get swept under the oh well rug because no one's being held to actual logic engagement. So I understand, no problem. But I still hope you have a great day. You said love and respect. Love and respect you. What's your name again? Chris. I'm not even gonna look. It was Chris Rob. I remember off the top of my head. Chris Rob. I love and respect you. You know what I'm saying? I hope you have a blessed day. If you come back and comment, we can continue and we can keep conversing. I don't care. That's the whole point. Again, the whole point of this is to build community and communicate with people, and hear other points of views. Right? I like hearing your point of view. That's the whole point. Right? I don't want to just be up here talking, telling you my point of view all the time. I like to show the people and give flowers to their point of view, their stories, and hopefully still your story can help somebody. I think your story is very inspirational. I think your story is inspirational because it shows a lot of adversity that you was able to overcome, and I think a lot of people can pull from that, right? To see the success that you now have. Right, a lot of people wouldn't even know that was your start. So that's a great story, and I hope you can continue to inspire people with that. Inspire until you expire. Remember that one, all right?